Well, good morning, Americans. How are you? Don't you know me? I'm your native son. It's the Boston Cowboy here, casting out my rays of light from a beautiful New England. And today, we have quite the showdown for you. We got a Mr. Sheldon Whitehouse from Rhode Island, born October 20, 1955, an American politician and attorney, serving as a junior United States Senator from Rhode Island, a seat he has held since 2007. He's a member of the Democratic Party, served as the United States Attorney for the District of Rhode Island from 93 to 98, and as the 71st Attorney General of Rhode Island from 99 to 2003. And he was elected to the Senate in 06, defeating Republican incumbent Lincoln Chafee. He was reelected in 2012, 2018, and 2024. He is a political progressive and climate hawk. Whitehouse became chair of the United States Senate Committee on the Budget in 2023. He's given hundreds of Senate floor speeches about climate change and asserted that politically conservative dark money groups are conducting a campaign to take control of the United States government, specifically the U.S. Supreme Court, to prevent climate action, among other reasons. And here we have him today. Now, bear in mind, he is an attorney, so he does know the law probably a little bit. And here he's going to be speaking on a Mr. Todd Blanche, who's going to be up for a vote here soon to be the AG. And I think he's going to pass. I don't know about you, but I think he is. But of course, we got to listen to these people give their little spiels and speeches about why and why not somebody should or should not be voted or appointed into their little seat there. And I mean, it's something to behold, this government and what it has been doing lately. And well, let's listen to what old Whitehouse got to say here.
And sexually assaulted. Mr. President, I am here today to join the chorus of opposition to Todd Blanche's nomination as Attorney General of the United States. Things that Republicans have purported to care about are disasters with this guy. Pam Bondi put the blame directly on Todd Blanche for the Department of Justice's foul-up with the Epstein files. That foul-up was pretty deadly serious for the women who were victims who had managed to keep that fact private until Todd Blanche and the DOJ fouled that up and put out their names, put out their addresses, put out their photographs, in some cases put out photographs with very little clothing on.
Okay, so he keeps saying they fouled it up. They fouled this up like it was some type of oopsie doopsie mistake. They just fouled it up. Do you really think they just fouled that up? I mean, really? This is the same guy that went down to interview with Ghislaine Maxwell and come back with a sweetheart deal for her to move her to a nice little cushy prison. And yeah, same guy. You know, he's just fouling stuff up left and right. I mean, come on, Whitehouse. Grow a pair of balls and call it like it is, you know? I mean, geez. If you're up there casting aspersions and whatnot, call it like it is. Fouled it up. Come on.
Complete disruption of the lives of the victims of Epstein's depravity, complete incompetence from a document production point of view. And on the other side, this guy actually participated in the Epstein cover-up. Remember that there was a witness who spoke to FBI agents about having been assaulted by Donald Trump when she was about 14 years old, physically assaulted and sexually assaulted. She spoke to the FBI at least 4 times. Those 4 times were recorded in FBI 302s. A 302 is the FBI name for the witness statement that the agents write up after an interview. So 4 times this woman had been interviewed about what had happened to her as a girl. 3 of those 302s specifically mentioned Donald Trump. In the disclosure that Todd Blanche made under the Epstein Files law, the only one of the 4 that got disclosed was the one that didn't mention Donald Trump. That ought to be disqualifying right there. Luckily, some very sharp investigators realized through gaps in bait stamp numbers that documents were missing and that the 3 302s had not been disclosed. And so Blanche was forced to cough those up. But behind a 302 come the agent notes. And there's still 37 pages of documents related to that that are still suppressed, that are still covered up, that look to be the agent's notes, which should have been disclosed. So the cover-up continued with respect to allegations against Donald Trump. Where else did the cover-up continue? Well, the Treasury Department sent to the Department of Justice what are called suspicious activity reports. A suspicious activity report is what you get when international banking transactions look like something funny is afoot, look like there is, for instance, money laundering going on. In this case, it was money laundering and human trafficking concerns that provoked the suspicious activity reports. Well, you don't have to be a genius investigator to look at a suspicious activity report and deduce that it might have something to do with some suspicious activity. It's the title of the report, for Pete's sake. Billions of dollars of transactions were behind those suspicious activity reports. How many were investigated by the Blanche Department of Justice? 0. Turned a complete blind eye to that whole aspect of the Epstein files, even though the suspicious activity reports were right in front of them. And then he goes running down to Tallahassee to interview Epstein's comrade in crime, Ghislaine Maxwell. Did he use that interview to develop any new information, to go after people who were culpable in the Epstein files? No. He used that interview to extract exculpatory comments from her about Donald Trump. Oh, that he was a perfect gentleman. And the next thing you know, she's rewarded with a transfer to a club-fed type prison. What's the excuse for that? Oh, she was at risk. We felt she was in danger. Well, look, I've been around law enforcement for a long time. This is the first time I've ever seen a prisoner allegedly in danger be transferred to a less secure setting to solve the problem of danger. Right? You move the prisoner to a more secure setting, not to a less secure setting. It makes no sense. So in the Epstein files, Todd Blanche's fingerprints are all over the screw-up and the cover-up. Then we move on to the slush fund and the Trump family tax fraud amnesty. which was cooked up in a deal surrounding a federal court proceeding, which was such a mess that the judge in that federal court proceeding has gone back to look at what the heck happened. She was looking at whether something happened called fraud upon the court. You probably haven't heard of fraud upon the court. It's unusually rare. It is a thermonuclear ethics accusation. We've looked in the history of the Department of Justice. Fraud on the court has not even been alleged against any senior DOJ official, ever, ever. And here you have a court that opened a proceeding, an inquiry into whether or not there was fraud on the court, and that's still pending. There is still every reason to believe that Blanche may be found culpable for putting a fraud on the court together to cook up the slush fund tax amnesty scheme. That is pretty unheard of. Unfortunately, it's not uncommon in this Blanche Department of Justice. There is a cascade of criticism from federal courts about misconduct by this Department of Justice, misconduct that is unprecedented. I will tell you, I was the U.S. Attorney for the District of Rhode Island. If judges had used words like this about my attorney's conduct in their courtrooms, there would have been consequences. At a minimum, there would have been staff meetings. There could have been referrals to the Office of Professional Responsibility. There could have been apologies required to the court. There could have been a reboot, internal office discipline of what's going on with this case. But when a judge says that the government's argument is disingenuous, when the judge says that the government's argument is a pretext for something else, when the judge says that the government has engaged in bad faith, each one of those is a four-alarm fire word. In medicine, there are things that they call never events, things that should never happen in a hospital that you protect against. These are never event words coming from federal judges. And yet they are commonplace in the corrupted Department of Justice run by Todd Blanche. As to his complicity in the Epstein files cover-up, I offer a letter from Epstein survivors to Senators Tillis and Cornyn and ask that that be incorporated at the end of my remarks.
Without objection.
With respect to the destruction of the Department of Justice that he has wrought, I would also ask that we add George Will's column called Against Todd Blanche.
Without objection.
And with respect to this litany of criticism of the honesty of the Blanche Department of Justice, I would like to add a ProPublica article entitled Federal Judges Chastise Trump's Justice Department for, quote, unlawful, quote, unethical, and, quote, unseemly conduct, whose first sentence begins, across the country, federal judges are calling out Department of Justice lawyers, questioning in unprecedented ways whether they can be trusted to tell the truth or uphold centuries-old legal norms. I ask unanimous consent for that.
Without objection.
And then this isn't just a problem in American legal communities. There's a global magazine called The Economist magazine, which, by the way, does not run liberal. It's a fairly conservative publication. The cover story in the July 18th Economist is a picture of the Department of Justice logo and the title, Degradation in Process. I asked that the Economist magazine article, there are actually two. One is the opening article that they lead with before they get to the main article, and the second is the main article, that the two articles about the degradation of the Department of Justice under Todd Blanche be added to the record as well.
Without objection.
Last, there's a group called Just Security which keeps track of what goes on in federal courts. This is a binder of the cases that they have put together in which a federal judge is harshly criticizing the integrity or the competence of the Department of Justice. This binder, frankly, should not exist. This is two-sided, by the way. These many cases, it is just astounding. I'm not going to ask that this all be put into the record, but I will note that if you look at justsecurity.org, you can look at their report published on March 19, 2026. It gets regularly updated. And if you want to go through it, you can see truly appalling criticisms by federal judges of every appointment background against incompetence and dishonesty by the Blanche Department of Justice. Where that really hits the road is with something called the presumption of regularity. You all might not know what the presumption of regularity is, but it's a benefit that the government enjoys. That as a matter of policy, the federal judiciary has determined that the federal government is generally so honest and competent that its proceedings will be given the presumption of regularity, that the benefit of the doubt will go to the Department of Justice lawyers and to the government agencies involved, unless the adversary can prove otherwise. Courts will presume that the government has done the right thing, and over again we have seen judges say that presumption of regularity is now shot because there is so much dishonesty and incompetence coming out of the Department of Justice. That is unprecedented. There are hundreds of other reasons to vote against this most reprehensible Attorney General nominee in American history, but the very specific ones about his complicity in the Epstein files screw-up and cover-up, his being the first senior Department of Justice official in the history of the United States to face a fraud on the court inquiry where the judge already decided that the proceeding was a sham and that the parties were in collusion with each other and that the whole thing was done in bad faith, and that that's not an isolated incident. That is part of a pattern of incompetence, dishonesty out of the Department of Justice that has never before happened in the United States of America. My Republican colleagues want to get behind that. If they're cool with an Attorney General who has that record, that's on you. I yield the floor.
So, this guy's a genius. I mean, if Blanche gets through with everything we just heard, this guy's a genius. I mean, the capture he has over the American governmental system right now is unprecedented. It touches on diabolical genius levels of planning and know-how that it really boggles the mind. I hate to say it, but he's right. I mean, Blanche is so tainted. He's tainted beyond. And if he gets through, which I think he is, it goes to show you how useless, how powerless, and how owned the Congress and Senate is at this point. That they would let this guy through. Why? It goes to show you that they don't vote based on facts, based on logic, you know. They don't vote based on sense. That has no place here. Don't you see, White House? It has no place here. It just goes to show you how useless and powerless Congress and the Senate is when it comes to to this at this point in time. Logic and sense have no place, zero. And he's just proven that the capture of the Congress and the Senate is complete at this point. It is complete. Why? Because they vote along their party lines, and they're told how to vote. Period. They don't go rogue. They don't go and say, well, I'm going to vote the way my conscience thinks it's going to vote, the way I feel. No. That's not why you're there. That's not why the president has endorsed you. He endorses you because the capture is complete. Otherwise, Blanche wouldn't be allowed near the DOJ, given what we know. I mean, it goes to show you the president really is a damn near genius. On the level of Vladimir, I'd say. The genius level of this guy, of what he has done to the United States system, single-handedly over the last the first term, yeah, you could say was a little topsy-turvy. Then Biden was just a Biden his time there while Trump got his stuff together. This is pretty much over the past few years. He has captured this system, this government, and naysayers be damned. Logic and sense be damned. They have no place here, no more. So I gotta give it to him. Trump is a damn near genius. We never thought we'd see something like this, ever. Did you ever think we would ever see what has been going on here? It's just, I don't even know if it's real, folks. It's the reality we're witnessing is something to behold. And, hey, you got to give it to them. Got to give it to them. But, yeah, that's about all I got to say. So thanks, y'all, for watching. Stay safe, stay free, and by golly, don't believe everything you see. Boston Cowboy, adios.